All right, welcome to Yin Yoga, and today we're going to focus pretty much lower body. We're going to really look into the legs, the end points of the legs, which are the hips, of course, and the feet. So let's start in a seated position, bringing the soles of the feet together. So I'm sitting a little high for this, so I'm going to create a rolled up blanket to start with. And we often call this butterfly pose in Yin Yoga. And traditional yoga might call it bound angle, or cobbler's pose. And what I want you to do is, if you have blocks handy, you can support the thighs, so we create a gradual process here. So we can feel the connection of the feet, the opening of the hips, the stretching of the adductors, and you adjust the blocks. The more you move them in, the less hip opening you'll have. The more you move them out, the more hip opening you have. And I want you to find that position that feels kind of nice, a sweet spot. Look for your sweet spot there. So for me, it's a nice stretch in the inner thighs. It's not painful. I have a slight forward tilt in the torso because I'm sitting on the edge of my blanket. And you can wiggle around, and the feet are connected. Let's do an open eye meditation, gazing at our feet. No need to analyze, simply to gaze and notice the shapes, maybe even the color of your feet, the points of contact where the 2 feet meet and don't meet. And at least in the alternative world of medicine, there's a lot of research about the feet being integral to our health and the rise of inflammation in the body because the feet are not healthy. The feet tend to be closed and clamped away by shoes, insulating them from the earth. So this connection with bare feet to the earth is a perhaps an emerging scientific realization that barefoot contact with the earth helps with the overall health of the body. And then just start wiggling the toes so the toes tap together and then up, pull back. And just feel the musculature in the foot, in the arch that operates that small movement. And then take your thumbs and hands and bring your thumbs down, if they're not already there, into the arch of the foot and start to massage that out. Meanwhile, the pads of the fingers are on the top of the foot, on the bones, and it's nice to separate the bones at the top of the foot. So you start to really get into and discover different pressure points. You might find some points are a little tender. Others might feel a nice release. Now take a moment to come back to your blocks and perhaps move them out 2 or 3 centimeters, an inch or so, and just allow the hips to open a little bit more and just feel that new hip opening. If it's too much, of course, push them back, but otherwise feeling the increase in the opening, and bring the fingertips down in front of the feet, creating a slight forward tilt in the torso. Resist the temptation to drop the head and round the back, so we're keeping a nice long back. And relax shoulders and arms. Now, as you do this, start to take sweeter breaths. So we're going to breathe a little more lightly, a little more slowly, and probably a little more deeply. So we're slowing the breathing process down. And one of our afflictions in this modern culture is we breathe too much. We overbreathe. So just see if you can breathe slowly enough, gently enough, to create a little hunger for breath. Where you feel like, oh, I can feel a little peckish, I need more breath, without disrupting the sweet spot of the breath. And then over time, gently walk the hands out an inch or two more and feel that increase in the hips. Adjust your blocks if you need to. Mine feel pretty good where they are. Come back to that LSD breath. Light, slow, deep. And then maybe a little more until you feel a nice stretch through the shoulders. So the hands are out further now, and this time, if you want to, drop the chin to the chest, rounding the back. Walk the hands out a little further if that's helpful. And then slowly walk the fingertips back, let them creep back. Torso starts to come up. Gently find the edges of the knees and lift them up and extend both feet out. Feeling the back of the legs now starting to hang. While we're here, we might as well grab a strap and bring the strap around both feet. And good hold, a strong grip of the strap. You can lean back and you're just going to start to simply floss. Pull one side of the strap, then the other. Really feel that pressure and stimulation to the bottom of the foot. Spread the toes. Up and down the arch, onto the ball of the foot if you can. And even the heel if you can. So the entire bottom of the foot getting plenty of deep fascial pressure. Good. And then slowly release the flossing as you Bend the right knee, right ankle over that left knee. Squeeze the toes, massage the toes out. Grab the ankle and start to twirl, pivot, turn the foot. Not too fast. I want you to be conscious of the feeling of release in the ankle joint as you do this. And resist the temptation to activate the ankle so the foot is being turned by the hand and arm. So it's a more therapeutic than strengthener. Good. Other way. If the pressure of the ankle on top of your quadricep is painful, you could pad it with a small cushion or towel. Now, while you're in this figure 4 shape, we're going to take another opportunity, this time to focus on the toes. And I like to call it the wiggle, stretch and massage of the toes. So start by wiggling the pinky and toe number 4 back and forth. Loosen up the binding between them. And then stretch the webbing laterally, sideways apart. And then you can squeeze up and down the length of each toe with the thumb and the fingers. So we'll do this in consecutive pairs. We move to toe 4 and 3. Same deal, wiggle, stretch the webbing, and then pressure points up and down the toes. And then 2 and 3. When you hit the big toe and toe number 2, just be mindful the big toe might be quite different. So cautiously move it in the different directions. And of course, give it a nice, big, strong pressure point massage. All right, we can release that foot back to neutral, toes curled back. Notice if there's any feeling difference between left and right side. And then we'll cross opposite ankle over and start with the rotation of the foot with relaxed ankle. Other direction. And then we'll go to the toes, moving through the consecutive pairs once again. And even though the focus is on the feet and the toes, take a moment to swing back to your breath. Light breath, a light breath. A slow breath. And a deep breath simply meaning that you're using the diaphragm to breathe. You're not breathing in the upper chest. You're not forcing the breath. So keep making your way up through the toes, and remembering when you hit the big toe, just take care. And when you finish, bring both feet back towards each other, toes curled back. If that's too much on your hamstrings, you can take the blocks underneath the knees. Create that forward tilt and simply slide the hands down towards the ankles. Really feeling the back of the legs into the low back. And then once again, in the midst of all that sensation, that light, slow, deep breath. You can start to bring the head towards the knees. And then slowly walk the hands back up the legs. If you've used blocks, you can remove the blocks. And bring the right. So this is an unusual seated position. You're trying to bring the shin parallel to the top of your mat. So it's not really bringing the heel right into the groin, but you've got the shin roughly parallel to the top of the mat. Now that might result in the knee lift, so again you've got your block there to lift and hold the block if it doesn't go down. You can try coming off your mat if that helps. Doesn't really help me. I like the forward tilt of the pelvis. And in fire log pose, we're trying to stack the wood nicely on top of each other. So we're going to take the other foot roughly over the knee and the knee over the foot. So you create this pile or stack of firewood. Now, if that top knee is elevated like this, what I want you to do is pad it with something. It could be block, could be a cushion. And notice the further you bring the block or the cushion out, the more the knee drops down. So you can adjust until you get just the right amount of tension. It's going to run through the leg into the hip here. So sit up nice and proudly. But not that pride that feels violent. Find that pride that feels you can breathe slowly and with ease, that you're at a deep comfort in your shape, in your body. So it's a noble, natural noble sense. Sitting up tall, shoulders back and down, head hovering, floating above the shoulders. Come back to that light, slow, deep breath. A couple more breaths here. And then slowly release. Extend the legs for a moment. You can even lean back into your hands if you like. Squeeze the shoulder blades, drive out through the heel bones, curl the toes back. And then we'll stack the firewood on the other side. So we'll bring the opposite leg in first, which will be your left, maybe. And then stack your other. Now I can feel quite a significant difference from this side to the other side, so I'm going to use my block here to give me a little bit of support on that right knee. Yeah, so that's a significant hip discrepancy from right to left side. So this is a good way just to discover that. And remembering we're looking for a kind of sweet spot. So if something's like really awkward, really uncomfortable, adjust your position until you find something approximating the shape but feels safe on the joints, the knee, hip. This goes deep into the hip here. And it should be a shape where you can be undistracted as you sit tall and breathe lightly. Five more breaths. Now as you release, bring the feet into a standing position on the mat in front of you, approximately the width of the mat, and you might like to sit on your mat rather than the towel. And lean back into the hands and let the knees fall from one side to the other slowly, just bringing some circulation back. And then you can swing the opposite arm, so as the knees fall to the right, the left arm swings around. And turn the head as well behind you, so you start to free up the whole spinal column. And then you go to the other side. Just releasing up all that static sitting we just did. And see if you can do it with that light, slow, deep breathing. And that should give you a nice tempo. And now we'll open up the legs and work on the feet in a different way. So come down onto your belly into Sphinx pose. And point the toes slightly outwards, so the feet are quite wide. If your low back feels this is too much, start in crocodile with the hands stacked and the forehead resting on the stacked hands. But don't let it be a static crocodile. Simply push into the left hip and then the right hip, so you're waddling your buttocks, helping release any static or tightness there in the hips. Also getting the hip flexors used to being open. And then when you're ready, you can come up to Sphinx, remembering that you want the elbows under the shoulders, which means your hands could tap the upper arms on each side at the same time. Bring the hands down, fingers spread evenly. So once again, just feeling this extension in the hip flexors. Opening up the front of the legs, toes pointed outwards. And then slowly bring the hands back beside the ribs, push up onto all fours. Tabletop, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Resist the temptation to bring the knees together, so you want the hips wide. Spread the hands comfortably wide, rotate the elbows out, not the hands, but the elbows, and look up. And then tuck the tailbone and round the back, tuck the tailbone, drop the head. and repeat cat and cow at any pace that you want. And you might want blocks for this next part. You can bring blocks to the top of the mat at any height you want. And you're going to step the left foot forward in between the blocks so the foot's on the ground. And then slowly walk the right knee back and back until you get that sweet spot in the groin. Make sure that front foot stays stable. Some of you won't need blocks, you'll be down on your hands. Now point the toes of the back foot. Let's really get into the back foot here. Ankle extension, you're pointing the toes away into this variation of dragon pose. Once again, the blocks can be a nice prop here to give you good shape, good form. And over time, the blocks can come into lower positions as those tight groin muscles open up. Another option here is you can pivot the front foot to the side of the mat. So you can feel that exterior rotation runs right up into the inner thigh. Try to keep the foot grounded the whole time. Some people can come down onto elbows or the block and an elbow. So lots of variation here. Remember, sweet spot, not too much. To release, rotate the front foot if it's rotated and come back to all fours. Now in all fours, come back to your cat and cow just to feel what happened in the hips, particularly in dragon. And then option to use the blocks to step the right foot forward. Sometimes the blocks just give you that ability to step the foot forward nicely. And from here you can work that left knee back. Remember, you're looking for delicious opening. So you can see the hip joint is open at an oblique angle. It's not acute, it's not 90 degrees. It's really pulling back on that top groin, that extended groin. Point the toes so you get that nice flexion in the ankle or extension in the ankle. And for the rest of our time, it's really micro adjusting. You might find after a while I can lower the blocks or remove them. or come to my elbows. Check in with the breath, that light, slow breath. Now at some point you might want to rotate that front foot, pivot it outwards. And usually if you can manage that, you can come down a little lower to the mat. Whether it be hands or elbows or blocks. Stay with the sweet spot. Reflect that sweet spot with the breath. Remember, the breath is in and out of the nose. Three more breaths here. Remembering when you come out of dragon, over a long period of time, you come out very gently, very slowly, one step at a time, until you're back to tabletop. Now, once you're in tabletop, take 3 to 5 cat and cows. And then widen the knees and slowly sink back to the child pose of your choice, whether you're on elbows, stacked fists, or extending the arms or not. And try to point the toes away from you, just to keep that ankle extension active through child pose. And when you're ready, bring yourself back up. Maybe have a bolster handy, strap handy, and come onto your back. Bring the knees together, feet flat on the floor. And bring the right hand onto the right rib cage, just at the bottom, a couple of ribs. Left hand on the left rib cage. And start to relax the lower back into the mat. Lighten the breathing, lighten the breathing. Slow the breathing. And just notice if you can feel a movement of the rib cage expanding, the belly expanding as you breathe. Resist the temptation to manipulate the breath. Just allow it to happen. Light, slow. So light is that sense of using the nose like you're smelling a sweet or subtle fragrance. And that slows the breath as well. So light and slow, smell the fragrance. And feel how that deepens the breath naturally into the abdominal cavity. Breathing in and out of the nose. And then slowly straighten both legs out. Move the shoulders towards the right of the mat and move your hips towards the left of the mat, so you're kind of lying diagonally across the mat. And then cross the left ankle over the right ankle, so the feet and the right shoulder are to the right of the mat, but the hip is to the left of the mat. You turn the head to the right. And then slowly lift both arms up over the head. And the right hand's going to grab the left wrist. So you can pull on the left wrist at any time you want. You're increasing the length on the left side of the body. When you find the golden spot, the sweet spot, the Goldilocks spot, find those 10 light, slow, deep breaths. Couple more breaths here. Then slowly release the arms, let the head come to neutral, let the body find symmetry on the mat, but still keeping the feet wide. And then we'll go into banana shape on the other side. Walk the shoulders to the left, hips to the right, and cross right foot over left. Turning the head to the left. As the right side of the body starts to get used to this length, float the arms over the head. Left hand grabs right wrist. And you can apply whatever tension finds the sweet spot. And let's take 10 light, slow breaths here. Good. And as you come to that final 10th breath, release slowly and gently, finding symmetry on your back once again with feet wide. And bend the knees, feet flat on the floor, just enough to lift your hips off the ground and drag your bolster or folded towel or blocks underneath your hips into a supported back bend. Make sure it feels comfortable. If you have something on your head, you might be able to release that. We're going to do a little bit more footwork here by bringing the knees to the chest. And slowly rising the feet to the sky, heels to heaven. At any time you want to grab the hamstrings for support, you can, or you could just let the hands flop beside you. Activate the ankles by pointing the toes and then flexing the toes. Point, flex, point, flex. The next time you flex the feet, spread the toes as widely as you can. You can open your eyes for this. And then scrunch your toes. Scrunch as if you're trying to hold something with your toes. Scrunch them. Curl them back, spread them. Scrunch them. Really feel the strength of those toe muscles. Keep going. Scrunching, spreading, then take the hands between the thighs and with care push the hips apart, nice big wide V. And then rotate the feet. Keep rotating till you start to feel a bit of a burn in the ankles. And then rotate the other direction. And then let the knees bend and the shins just dangle there in this dead bug shape. Pull backwards on the thighs so you feel the knees coming back towards the shoulders, tractioning out the low back. If you can, I want you to walk your hands down to your feet and grab the outer edges of the feet or the inner edges of the feet. Keep pulling back with the knees, so the knees are still bent. And then carefully, just the right knee, open it up to a 90-degree angle so you've got yourself in a half happy baby on the right side, but your left side is still in the asymmetrical knee bend. Now if you can't hold the foot and the leg in this position on the right side, you could always grab the hamstring or the back of the knee and pull it down. And bring it back to the original position. And then move the left knee to a 90-degree angle, hand grabs foot. Heel to heaven. Half happy baby on the left side. And then bring that foot back. And if you have a strap, you can grab the strap here and put it over the right foot, heel to heaven. You can floss the foot here. There's another opportunity to stimulate the fascia at the bottom of the right foot. Now this time we're going to keep that right leg straight. Grab hold of the strap into the right hand only and straddle the hips. So you're bringing that extended leg out now to the right. Oh yeah. And the left knee, you can hug the left knee in towards the ribs with that left hand so you keep plenty of hip opening here. And slowly come back to neutral, change feet. Take some floss time. Secure the strap into the left hand and heel to heaven. Get a nice posterior chain stretch on that left leg, and then you can open the hips out to the side. Light, slow breath. Ah. 3 more breaths. And slowly release, bringing both feet to the ground. And you can lift the hips and remove that bolster. Remove that bolster. And bring the soles of the feet together, knees out into butterfly. If that's okay for your low back. If that's too much, bring the knees together, feet apart. Make sure you're warm. And we'll end with some more LSD breathing. Hands can be touching the lower ribs or not. If they're touching, make sure they're not pressing, they're just very, very light, and they can simply feel the movement of the belly and the ribs with each breath. Breathing in and out of the nose. Start to smell for the fragrance. So it's a light, slow breath. The smell of the woods, the pines, the smell of the ocean. What's that fragrance where you become like a bear? You stop your activity, your nostrils flare. What's the scent that you are most sensitive to? slow breath. And the next time you breathe out, don't breathe in for 3, 2, 1. Then just gentle breathing. And the next time you breathe out, hold the breath out, breath retention. 3, 2, 1. And just breathe in normally, gently. And come into this rhythm. 3 normal, gentle, slow breaths. And on the third breath, exhale and hold out for 3, 2, 1. Breathe in naturally, slowly. Breathe out, hold out. And breathe in. Let the ratio of carbon dioxide change. Breathe out. Hold out. Breathe in. And slowly release the hands. And slowly bring the knees up gently towards the ribs. And in whatever way works for you, release the low back before you come to a seated position. Find that comfortable seat. And sit quietly with your feet, legs, and hips. Thank you for joining me today. Namaste.